There's nothing like a wood stove to really give you that.
Yeah, let me get glued to it.
So I read this story this morning, I just read before the class. And I get these things from the devotees in Nashville. And I think it's from Guru Maharaj initially. But anyway, so it's a quote usually from Prabhupada. And then for some reason they attached this one story from a devotee by the name of Vishnu Das from Vancouver. He's a friend of godbrother and friend of mine. He's the one that painted the attractive couple.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I was in business with him and his friend Rupa for a while when they did that. We did that.
What is attractive couple?
Attractive couple is that painting of Krishna and Radharani that's pretty well reproduced a lot everywhere. You see it almost everywhere. Then they also did one of Krishna. He did one of Krishna and Balaram, which I posed for. There's no resemblance, but didn't get as much traction. But yeah, it's there's smaller versions of just Radharani and Krishna's usually cut, and then you see. But the whole thing has a nice Vrindavan scene. Okay. Anyway, so the story is that he was at the Vancouver temple, which is actually in Burnaby, a suburb, and one day he has a knock at the door. Actually, let's do this. And so what happens is, it's a Jehovah's Witness at the door.
Okay.
And the Jehovah's Witness was, he's dressed completely as a devotee with Cheted and Dodi, not the Jehovah's Witness, the Vishnu Das, and Tilak. And the Jehovah's Witness is like taken aback, but he plows forward. And then he has a Bible in his hand, and he just randomly opens it to this one section. And, I'm just giving you a sort of, it was like 2 paragraphs. And it says, and the 5th angel came, and what was it? The 5th angel came, and there was something happened, and then the key descended to open the shaft, and the angel took the key and opened the shaft, and out came black smoke that covered the sun, covered all directions, and all these, odious aromas and all these creatures. And then the locusts came upon the earth, and they were instructed not to destroy the vegetation. Only the people that are not with the mark of the Lord upon their forehead. And just at that moment, the devotees listen to it because it's a much longer reading. It's like, it's a whole paragraph. I'm just giving you what I can remember. But it's a whole description how this shaft comes up and the key opens it and the angel's there. Description of darkness and ominous omens. Is that right? Is that correct? Anyway, and then it says, but don't touch those with the mark of God upon their forehead. And then Vishnu Das goes, wait a minute, hold on, stop, right there. Look. He points to his forehead. He says, I think I'm protected. He said, where's your mark? And then the Jehovah's Witness says, well, you're not supposed to take it literally. and Vishnu Das says, no, I think actually you're supposed to take the scriptures literally, like thou shalt not kill. It says the mark on the forehead of God. I've got it, you don't. And then he just kind of, the guy just kind of got frustrated and we just walked off mumbling to himself, confused and not knowing what to say, just like that. So I thought that was kind of
It's funny.
one of those.
That's a good story.
Yeah, that's a good one. And if you know, Vishnudas is a very gentle person, very soft-spoken. He's really dedicated to his art. And so, anyway, I just thought that was really... So,
Thank you.
onward.
Onward.
Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jayo Radha
Kunja Bihari Govindjana Bhava Giridhari Govindjana painting is the one where Radharani's got her arm and her head on Krishna's shoulder.
Yeah, we found it.
You found it there? Yeah, it's right.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Check
It was a limited edition print we were selling. I got one of the first, well, 8 signed and numbered one for a wedding present.
Whoa.
So, okay, so this is text 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaivam Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam. Tato Jayam Buddhiraya.
Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master and founder Acharya. Namaham Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunnavadi Pashapadevishwatarine.
But I heard recently that it's supposed to be Namaste Saraswati Devam.
Ah.
Is that right?
I never heard it.
I read both parts of my reading. I remember reading Devam.
Yeah, I heard Brita and Nanda say it should be Devam. I try to, anyway, I'm stuck on the Devi. Sutta Uvacha.
Sutta Uvacha.
But I just remembered something. One thing I want to quickly mention is that when we say Vande Guroshi, I remember Bhakti Swarup Damodar telling me once that we were saying Vande Goroshi. Subtle, but it means that you were offering your respectful obeisances to the hooves of the cows.
Crying out loud. You're saying what's wrong with
Goroshi. Vande Guroshi. Vande Guroshi. Okay. Sutta Uvacha.
Sutta Uvacha.
Aho.
Aho.
Vayam.
Vayam.
Janma.
Janma.
Brito.
Brito.
Adya.
Adya.
Hashma.
Hashma.
Aho Vayam Janma Brito Dya. Hashma.
Aho Vayam Janma Brito Adya Hashma.
Vridhan.
Vridhan.
There must be more than one word there. So, but it's Vridhanu Vrityapi. Vridhanu Vrityapi.
Vridhanu Vrityapi.
Vichadvi, yeah. Viloma.
Viloma.
Jatha.
Jataha.
Vrijanu Vritya Api Viloma Jana.
Viloma Jataha.
Dushku Daushku. See, I should have practiced this one. Dauskulam.
Dauskulam.
Adhim.
Adhim.
Vidhunoti.
Vidhunoti.
Sigram.
Shikram.
Dauskulam. Adhim. Vidhunoti. Sigram.
Dauskulam. Vidhunoti. Shikram.
Mahatmananam.
Mahatmananam.
Abhidana.
Abhidana.
Yoga.
Yoga.
Mahatmananam. Abhidana Yoga.
Mahatmanam Abhidana Yoga.
Sutta Uvacha.
Sutta Uvacha.
Aho Vayam Janma Brito Jayas Hasma.
Aho Vayam Janma Brito Hasma.
Vridhanu Vrityapi Viloma Jata.
Vidyanuvrityapi viloma jataha.
Dushkulyam adhim vidhunoti sigram.
Dushkulam adhim vidhunoti sigram.
Mahatamanam abhidana yoga.
Mahatamanam abhidana yoga.
Sutta uvacha.
Sutta uvacha.
Aho vayam janma vrito jahasma.
Aho vayam janma vrito jahasma.
Vridhanuvrityapi viloma jata.
Vidyanuvrityapi viloma jataha.
Daushkulam adhim vidhunoti sigram.
Daskulam
Adhim vidhunoti sigram.
Mahatmanam abhidana yoga.
Mahatmanam abhidana yoga.
Someone else?
Nobody?
Nobody wants to chat.
Ladies have to
So,
do it.
we can do it?
Go for it.
Prabhuji?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Sutta uvacha.
Sutta uvacha.
Aho vayam jama brito dyahasma.
Aho vayam janma vrito dyahasma.
Viratu vritapi viloma jata.
Vidyanuvrityapi viloma jata.
Daskulam admin vidunoti sikram.
Doskulyam adhim vidhunoti sigram.
Mahatamanam abhidara yoga.
Mahatamanam abhidana yoga.
Sutta uvacha.
Sutta uvacha.
Aho vayam janma vrito jahasma.
Aho vayam janma vrito jahasma.
Vridhanuvrityapi viloma jataha.
Vidyanuvrityapi viloma jataha.
Daushkulyam adhim vidhunoti shikram.
Doskulyam adhim vidhunoti sigram.
Mahatamanam abhidana yoga.
Mahatamanam abhidana
Yodana.
Sutta
Suttavacha.
Vayam jana vrito dyahasma.
Ayo vayam janma vrito jahasma.
Vidyanuvrityapi viloma jataha.
Vidhanuvrityapi viloma jataha.
Vayam adhim vidhunoti sigram.
Doskulyam adhim vidhunoti sigram. Mahatamanam abhidana yoga.
So can you change the page? Go.
Yes.
So the word for word is Sutta uvacha.
Sutta uvacha.
Sutta Goswami said,
Sutta Goswami said,
Aho,
Aho
how, Vayam, we, Janma Prita,
Amarita.
promoted in birth, Adya,
Adya
today,
today,
Ha, clearly,
Clearly.
Ashma,
Asma
have become, Vrida Anuvritya,
Vidya.
by severing those who are advanced in knowledge.
By serving those who are advanced in knowledge.
Api,
Api.
although, Viloma Jata,
Viloma Jata.
born in a mixed caste.
Born in a mixed caste.
Tuskulyam,
Dastuhyam.
disqualification of birth.
Disqualification of birth.
Adhim,
Adhim.
suffering.
Suffering.
Vidhunoti,
Vidhunoti.
purifies.
Purifies.
Sigram,
Sigram.
very soon.
Very soon.
Mahat,
Mahat.
Samanam,
Samanam.
of those who are great.
Of those who are great.
Abhidana,
Abhidana.
conversation.
Conversation.
Yoga,
Yoga.
connection.
Connection.
So the translation, I'll say, then you repeat, please. Oh, Sri Sutta Goswami said,
Sri Sutta Goswami said,
O God,
O God,
although we are born in a mixed caste,
although we are born in a mixed caste,
we are still promoted in birthright,
we are still promoted in birthright,
simply by serving
simply by serving
and following the great,
and following the great,
who are advanced in knowledge.
who are advanced in knowledge.
Even by conversing with such great souls,
Even by conversing with such great souls,
one can, without delay,
one can, without delay,
cleanse oneself
cleanse oneself
of all disqualifications
of all disqualifications
resulting from lower births.
resulting from lower births.
So the verse is then, Sri Sutta Goswami said, O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great soul who are advanced. It doesn't say great soul, it just says following the great, who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can, without delay, cleanse oneself of all disqualification resulting from lower births. And the purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Sutta Goswami did not take his birth in a Brahmana family. He was born in a family of mixed caste, or an uncultured low family. But because of higher association like Sukadeva Goswami and the great rishis of Naimisharanya, certainly the disqualification of inferior birth was washed off. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this principle in pursuance of the Vedic usage, and by his transcendental association, he elevated many low-born, or those disqualified by birth or action, to the status of devotional service, and established them in the position of acharyas, or authorities. He clearly stated that any man, whatever he may be, whether a Brahmana or Sudra by birth, or a householder or mendicant in the order of society, if he is conversant in the science of Krishna, he can be accepted as an acharya or guru, a spiritual master. Sutta Goswami learned the science of Krishna from great rishis and authorities like Sukadeva and Vyasadeva, and he was so qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya eagerly wanted to hear from him the science of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he had the double association of great souls by hearing and preaching. Transcendental science, or the science of Krishna, has to be learned from the authorities, and when one preaches this science, he becomes still more qualified. So Sutta Goswami had both the advantages, and thus, undoubtedly, he was completely free from all disqualifications of low birth and mental agonies. Mental agonies. Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
God. This verse definitely proves that Srila Sukadeva Goswami did not refuse to teach Sutta Goswami about the transcendental science, nor did the sages of Naimisharanya refuse to hear lessons from him because of his inferior birth. This means that thousands of years ago, there was no bar to learning or preaching the transcendental science because of inferior birth. The rigidity of the so-called caste system in Hindu society became prominent within only 100 years or so, when the number of Dvija bandhus, or disqualified men, in the families of higher caste increased. Lord Chaitanya revived the original Vedic system, and he elevated Thakur Haridas to the position of Namacharya. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki
Jai.
for the authority of the preaching of the glories of the holy name of the Lord. Although His Holiness Srila Haridas Thakur was pleased to appear in a family of Mohammedans, he was pleased to appear in a family of Mohammedans, which was automatically a disqualification. I mean, just Rupa and Sanatan, they were born in, I guess, was it, they were Brahmin families or Vaishyas?
Brahman family.
Brahmin families, yeah. But then they worked for the Mohammedans, and so therefore they were considered fallen. They weren't from their caste. And just like the sadhus in Vrindavan, they told Prabhupada, when he asked for their blessings, he said, if you go across the ocean, you will fall from your caste. You will lose your caste. Prabhupada didn't care for that. He wanted to please the spiritual master. He didn't care about what status he had in a caste. And yeah, I heard one devotee, Jasamati Nandana, talking. He asked a question about Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, why they refused to go into the Jagannath temple, because they had worked, for Mohammedans, even though they had had such intimate association with Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada gave a really beautiful answer. Unfortunately, you'll have to wait. It's another day. I don't remember exactly. No, it just said that, I don't want to say it until I have it right. It wasn't. Such is the power of pure devotees of the Lord. The Ganges water is accepted as pure. One can become purified after taking bath in the waters of the Ganges. But as far as the great devotees of the Lord are concerned, they can purify a degraded soul even by being seen by the low-born. What to speak of association? Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to purify the whole atmosphere of the polluted world by sending qualified preachers all over the world, and it remains with the Indians to take up this task scientifically and thus do the best kind of humanitarian work. The mental diseases, because he was writing this when he was in India, and he was trying to encourage his godbrothers and others to take up the task with him. He didn't necessarily want to do a solo trip on his own. He wasn't out for the glory for himself. He was just out for the glory of this mission to be fulfilled. And he was, all along trying, and even after coming here, he was writing to his godbrothers asking for some assistance, and he was telling them that there seems to be a fertile field here, and there's some good buildings that we can acquire, and on and on and on and on. And there was one brahmachari that wanted to come, but there he was a disciple of one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, something like Mongol or something, and the godbrother wouldn't allow him. And right after Prabhupada's disappearance, the devotees in Toronto invited him to Toronto, and he initiated some people, which was very controversial. But there was this, I digress.
Not the god brother, but the disciple.
The disciple of the brahmachari, yeah.
Was it the brahmachari initiated some people there?
Yeah, I don't know if he was a brahmachari at that point. He might have been a sannyasi.
Okay.
But he was the brahmachari who had wanted to come and assist Prabhupada, or at the very early stages, there was lots of controversies surrounding the whole transition, and everyone accepted. Well, majority of people knew that this is what Prabhupada wanted. He wanted us to become gurus, to become qualified. It was just how it was going to be implemented. And so different people tried different things. And Toronto, that time a president, that time was a very freewheeling, Anyway, he thought, well, let's get the brahmachari that wanted to help Prabhupada. He thought that was a good idea. And not much happened with that.
Okay.
I used to have a problem with the initiation. It's pretty questionable. The initiation confuses the line.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't authorized by ISKCON.
Was it?
No. No, but he wasn't being horrific. That was his rationalization.
Oh,
You know, he was trying to say that there should be many gurus other than the original 11. That was the big.
yeah, but not by that method, no.
No, but not by that method. A lot of things happen. In other words, because there was things that were so unclear, people were doing things that weren't necessarily the right thing or
That
authorized.
was a long time back? That
It was
happened?
right. It was right after probably, like 78.
Okay.
I don't know why I brought it up. I'm sorry, but as far as the great devotees of the Lord are concerned, they can purify a degraded soul even by being seen by the low-born. What to speak of association? Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to purify the whole atmosphere of the polluted world by sending qualified preachers all over the world, and it remains with the Indians to take up this task scientifically and thus do the best kind of humanitarian work. The mental diseases of the present generation are more acute than bodily diseases. It is quite fit and proper to take up the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world without delay. Mahatmananam Abhidanam also means dictionary of great devotees, or a book full of the words of great devotees. Such a dictionary of the words of great devotees and those of the Lord are in the Vedas and allied with literatures, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, is he saying there's a dictionary within the Vedas? That's, I'm not really sure what this last sentence means here. I didn't really read this before. I did read a little bit, but I didn't really study it. Mahatmananam Abhidanam also means dictionary of great devotees, or a book full of the words of great devotees. Such a dictionary of the words of great devotees and those of the Lord are in the Vedas and allied literatures, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam. So then that also means Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavad, Chaitanya Mangala, things of that nature. Om Gyan Kimaran Dasaka Ranjana Salakaya Chatsurim Mutanjena Tasma Shri Guru. Yeah, what happened to the card?
I'll check the floor. I didn't see it yesterday either, but I didn't check the floor under shelf.
Anyway.
Lower shelf.
I don't see it right now. I'm just going to put this in there. So, because Prabhupada mentioned Haridas Thakur, I was meditating on Haridas Thakur in the last few days, and I read some of his pastimes. And it seems that the running theme is with Haridas Thakur is that the more he was successful, the more he attracted the envy of materialistic people, or very pious Mohammedans, people of power. And like the first one that we know about is this Ramachandra Khan. And Ramachandra Khan was, I don't know if he was a Qazi or a governor in one district, and he just absolutely despised Haridas Thakur, and I think it was in a town or an area called Bonapole or something to that effect. It's in here somewhere, but I don't feel like. And at that point in time, Haridas, was living in a secluded area, and he had a tulsi plant that he was worshipping, and he was chanting 300,000 names of God a day. Not 300,000 rounds, but so I think that works out to be something like 187 rounds, something like that. But he was chanting a lot, and it was pretty much consuming the better part of the day. It was interesting because simultaneously, back about 2 weeks ago, I heard Talavana Maharaj, before he had a stroke, giving a class, and he was talking about different ways that this can be accomplished, and he was giving different ways that you can chant faster, and he was giving examples of it, and I don't want to imitate him, but in other words, in order to chant 64 rounds a day, which meant the Gaudiya Math devotees would it's like almost like a breath. It's like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, then you Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, and then almost to a point where it's like the mind and the words simultaneously. Hare Hare, Ram. And Talavana was doing it much better than I on that song. But so how he accomplished that, and it's not that we should imitate it, but we should emulate. And so what happened is that this really, for some reason, it really annoyed this Ramachandra Khan. So much so that he devised a plan, and this is a famous story, where he hired a prostitute. It's already 8:15, it's time to end the class.
What happened?
We started about 10 minutes late, probably, talking.
Anyway,
There was
Okay.
all stuff going on. We got here 5 minutes late. We got here about 6 minutes late, and nobody was settled down yet, so everything's behind.
okay, so anyway,
Famous story.
Yeah.
So he gets all the prostitutes in the village together, and he picks out the best, most famous one, the most beautiful one, the most successful one, and she guarantees him that she will be able to seduce him. And he says, well, then I will send my soldiers with you, and soon as he has union with you, we'll swoop in and take him and arrest him and beat him and torture him and execute him publicly. She said, no, wait. Let me have union with him once, then on the second time, send the soldiers. So she goes there at twilight, which is the most, best time for seduction. And he's sitting, and she approaches him, and she does very erotic or seductive poses. She's dressed very beautifully, and the aromas, the perfumes are very nice, and revealing certain parts of her anatomy that would be seduce most men, and just gentle hints. And she says that I've come. I'm so attracted to you. I've come to have union. And he said, well, that's fine. But I've made this vow, and I have to finish these many rounds, and I'll be finished soon. So if you just sit there and listen, I will fulfill your desire when I finish. So he continues to chant his rounds. And there's a tulsi plant there, and I believe if it was either the first time or the second time, she bows down to that tulsi plant. That is a key point because she showed respect. I think it was on the second time, but anyway, the first night goes by, and he hasn't finished, and she goes off somewhat amazed and disappointed, can't quite understand what happened. Some self-doubt, I guess, because she's always been successful in catching her prey. And but she's sure that the next day she will come. But this time when she does come, she pays obeisances to Tulsi. And again, he says, I'm so sorry about last night, and I'm sure that tonight I'll be able to finish, and then I'll fulfill your desires. And as gradually now she starts to say, oh God, or Hare Krishna, or Hare Ram, she starts to chant a little. I don't remember exactly, I don't mark it off where it was, I can't remember, but she starts to, do you remember, Krishna, what she was saying? I thought I heard you say, did you just say something?
No, just listening.
Okay, so anyway, she does start to say something like, oh God, or, like, or Haram, Haram, something like that. She starts to chant a little, or some kind of a, like, pleading to God. And again, she can't, I'm sorry, but tomorrow night I promise. And the Kazi is, I think he's a Kazi, I'm not sure. Anyway, Ramachandra Khan is really angry. I mean, what's wrong? You can't do this. Get this done. And each time she's like convinced that she'll get it done. The third night she goes, offers obeisances. Midway through, I'm pretty sure midway through, she starts to chant as well. And finally she says to him, she bows down and she says, I'm so sorry. I've come here with a devious intention and devious motive. I was trying to seduce you on behalf of the Ramachandra Khan, and I see that you're such a great soul, and by listening to your chanting, I want to completely surrender to you and become your disciple. And he initiates her into the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. He instructs her to take all of her possessions that she's earned from her legal, illicit activities and distribute them to worthwhile Brahmins. Prabhupada specifically mentions not to Durita Narayan, not to just the poor, but to qualified Vaishnavas or Brahmins. And then come back here to this hut and worship Tulsi Devi and chant. And don't worry, Krishna will provide. And word gets out in the village that she's been converted. And everybody comes to see her, much like Mugrari, from the story of Mugrari, and people start to come and offer her needs. And she becomes, this infuriates Ramachandra Khan, and he wants something done about it. Now I can't remember, I don't think this is the same incident where he ends up getting arrested and beaten. I think that happens somewhere else down the road in his travels. But what does happen to Ramachandra Khan is that the governor happens to come by, and he notices that Ramachandra Khan has been cheating in his tax collections, and he's furious. So now he defiles Ramachandra Khan's place of worship by slaughtering a cow in his sort of like his temple, and eats the flesh and completely contaminates the area. Then he takes him, arrests him, and tortures him and beats him. And I'm not sure if he was executed or he was in prison. I don't remember the whole thing. I just briefly looked over it. Shortly after that, then Haridas Thakur goes and meets up with these two other associates of Lord Chaitanya, Haranya, and I don't remember the other. And at that point, there was some person by the name of Gopala Chapala, or Gopala something, and he becomes very critical of Haridas Thakur, very envious of him. And he gets leprosy, and his nose falls off. So it's just like one thing after another. Then the meeting of there's another really famous story, and I'll just briefly mention it because it really requires, and it's not time, a full really description of this. But there was one Qazi that wanted the king to deal with Haridas Thakur because the Qazi couldn't stand him. The king was kind of like, well, what's the problem? He's just a mendicant. But the Qazi was so obsessed with him, he felt he was a threat to the Muslims because he was a Muslim, he's chanting, and he's converting all the Muslims to this, this Hindu chant. And the king and Haridas Thakur have a very interesting dialogue in which initially the king actually feels that Haridas Thakur is not a threat, and that his preaching is not a threat to Muslims, and it's not necessarily a sectarian thing. But the Qazi keeps insisting and pushing, and then he somehow or other convinces the Qazi that he is a threat. And what's very interesting, and I wish I could speak more about it, but there's a very interesting part of this pastime where Haridas Thakur sounds just like the bull when being asked by Mars Purdikat. He said, "This, whatever is to happen, is by the will of God. There's nothing I can do to change the will of God. I must just accept the will of God." And because the king is asking, "Why don't you do this or that?" And he's, "Look, whatever I say, it doesn't matter. The will of God is what's going to happen." And he just accepts it. So then he is beaten in 22 marketplaces by really, big, huge, muscular. I guess I don't know if they were Kshatriyas or whatever, but they beat him with these sticks, and everybody in the village is crying and begging, "Please stop." They're throwing themselves at their feet, offering the people that are doing the beating, offering them bribes to stop. "Please don't do this." They're going to the king to stop this brutality. Because they are beating brutally. And he doesn't die. And it goes on and on and on and on. And they're becoming exhausted, and they're becoming worried for their jobs, because they're not succeeding in their accomplishment. And then finally, he realizes the situation, and he falls into a trance, a yogic trance. And so they think he's dead. And this is, exactly what we understand what happened with Jesus Christ on the cross. And so the king wants to bury Haridas Thakur's body in the ground, and the Qazi says, "No, that's too good for him. Throw him in the ocean, where all the different animals will just rip his body to shreds." So they throw him in the ocean. He floats around, and then shortly thereafter, he comes out of the ocean, and he comes walking down the streets of the village, chanting Hare Krishna, and everyone is like falling at his feet. The king comes out of his palace, and he falls at the feet of Haridas Thakur and becomes initiated into chanting. There's more to that story, but I just want to quickly read something else, because I didn't realize. Yes.
Is that all right or not?
No, go right ahead.
What comes to my mind is there was that discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Haridas. I was remembering how Lord Chaitanya said, "I put my back on Haridas."
Oh, really?
To protect him from all those people.
Really?
Oh yeah, I think he showed he had marks on his back, on his own back.
Wow.
I think I read that too.
Wow. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Or
Might be in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam.
Chaitanya Bhagavatam, yeah.
Maybe.
Because I didn't see it necessarily in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but maybe I haven't looked all the way. But then I don't remember this.
Oh, Harinam Chintamani possibly too. Might be in that. Anyway, go ahead.
Then there's another temptation happens, and this time it's the material energy. It's Maya Devi herself. And the description of this is, hear about such incidents without putting forth dry arguments, for these incidents are beyond our material reasoning. One must believe in them with faith. One day Haridas Thakur was sitting in his cave, reciting the holy name of the Lord very loudly. The night was full of moonlight, which made the waves of the Ganges look dazzling. All directions were clear and bright. Thus everyone who saw the beauty of the cave, with the tulsi plant on a clean altar, was astonished and satisfied at heart. At that time, In that beautiful scene, a woman appeared in the courtyard. The beauty of her body was so bright that it tinged the entire place with a yellow hue. The scent of her body perfumed all directions, and the tinkling of her ornaments startled the ear. After coming there, the woman offered obeisances to the Tulsi plant, and after circumambulating the Tulsi plant, she came to the door of the cave where Haridas Thakur was sitting. With folded hands, she offered obeisances at the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Sitting at the door, she then spoke in a very sweet voice. "My dear friend," she said, "you are the friend of the entire world. You are so beautiful and qualified. I have come here only for union with you. My dear sir, kindly accept me and be merciful toward me, for it is a characteristic of all saintly persons to be kind toward the poor and fallen." After saying this, she began to manifest various postures which even the greatest philosopher would lose his patience upon seeing. Haridas Thakur was immovable, for he was deeply determined. He began to speak to her, being very merciful toward her. "I have been initiated into the vow to perform a great sacrifice by the chanting of the holy name a certain number of times every day. As long as the vow to chant is unfulfilled, I do not desire anything else. When I finish my chanting, then I have the opportunity to do anything." Prabhu actually said that once. He said, 16 rounds. Now I can do any damn thing.
I just heard that yesterday.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, somebody else told me that
Yes.
yesterday.
Yeah. It's
Where was that found?
What?
Where was that quote found?
Prabhupada said it one day in his room.
I think it was.
It's in a quotation.
No, I think it's it's a retelling. Someone it's in a memory. I don't think it was actually recorded.
No, it wasn't recorded, but devotees that were there told him.
Okay.
Like Rupananda was one of them, I think. He used to say it all the time. Now I can do any damn thing. Sit down at the door and hear the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. As far as the chanting is finished, I shall satisfy you as you desire. After saying this, Haridas Thakur continued to chant the holy name of the Lord. Thus the woman sitting before him began to hear the chanting of the holy name. In this way, as he chanted and chanted, the morning approached, and when the woman saw that it was morning, she got up and left. For 3 days she approached Haridas Thakur in this way, exhibiting various feminine postures that would bewilder the mind of even Lord Brahma. Haridas Thakur was always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. Maybe as Lord Brahma, but not as Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, in the holy name of Krishna. Therefore, the feminine poses the woman exhibited were just like crying in the forest. At the end of the night of the 3rd day, the woman spoke to Haridas Thakur as follows. "My dear sir, for 3 days you have cheated me by giving me false assurances, for I see that throughout the entire day and night your chanting of the holy name is never finished." Haridas Thakur said, "My dear friend, what can I do? I have made a vow. How then can I give it up?" After offering obeisances to Haridas Thakur, the woman said, "I am the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I have come here to test you." And then Prabhupada in the purport quotes, "Daiva Yisha Gunamahi, Mamam Maya Doratraya, Mam Eva Yeva Panchante, Mayam Etam Taranti Te." The divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. This was actually proved by the behavior of Haridas Thakur. Maya enchants the entire world. Indeed, people have forgotten the ultimate goal of life because of the dazzling attractions of the material world. But this dazzling attraction, especially the attractive beauty of a woman, is meant for persons who are not surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord says, Mam eva ye papanjante, mayam etam davantite. One who is surrendered unto me cannot be conquered by the illusory energy. The illusory energy personally came to test Haridas Thakur, but herein she admits her defeat. For she was unable to captivate him. How is this possible? It was because Haridas Thakur fully surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna, was always absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna by chanting the holy name of the Lord 300,000 times daily as a vow. And then she says, I have previously captivated the mind of even Lord Brahma. What to speak of others? Your mind alone have I failed to attract. So, and you can imagine, normally she just sends her agents, but she actually came here to Haridas, and Haridas is Lord Brahma. And also just remember this, like Brahma's planet is the topmost planet in the material world. It's so powerful that even Hiranyakasipu, he who conquered the entire universe, but he could not enter Brahma's planet. And Brahma's life there is, I think that they don't give us too much descriptions of it because we might become too attracted. Because in the other Vedas, the other demigods, the goal is Indra, the goal is to get to Satyaloka, or these other heavenly planets. And it says basically you will live an imperishable life, but it just means it's a very long life. But nowhere do you get the opportunity that we're getting. So in this case, Lord Brahma himself, who has the highest position, the highest enjoyment in the material universe, he is living as this mendicant, and he's more attacked. And as Lord Brahma, he was captivated by Maya. It says here that I didn't read the purport, but that once I even captivated the mind of Lord Brahma. So, but here now, because of Lord Chaitanya's mercy, and because of this, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, which is what he wanted. Lord Brahma wanted to come to Navadvip, to take birth at that time, so that he could take advantage of this special opportunity. And that's why it says that the demigods are lining up to come take birth. Well, here Lord Brahma himself has proven it. And there's one prayer I heard, one of the sannyasis, it could have been Radhanath, was saying that he was praying in the end to Lord Chaitanya that I don't want. He wasn't even thinking that I'm possibly some Gopa, Manjari or Saki. I just want to be an insect that eats the remnants of the Mahabharata. That's the way he felt. That's how, low he felt and humble he felt. That humility. And, I can't imitate that. I can't imitate that, like with the bull and in Haridas, when being challenged, well, why don't you defend yourself, and you say, explain, well, why that person has done this to you. And their realization is, it doesn't matter. If I argue, if I try to defend myself, even if I'm totally, completely innocent, and I may not be exonerated because it's the will of God that at this moment I am to be seen in this way and to suffer this way. And ultimately, by developing that actual realization, you're already beyond liberation. And there's an incident, this is a very interesting, I heard this just in a class, and this was Radhanath, and I don't know where it was from, whether it's Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavatam, but I heard him say that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who had been striving for mukti his entire life, there's a verse he quotes, and It's from the Bhagavatam, and it says the ultimate goal is to attain mukti. And that's, you do that through this devotional service. But he had realized that it's actually the ultimate goal is bhakti. And so he decided to change the words of Vyasadeva, that one word, mukti to bhakti, because when you have pure bhakti, mukti is your maidservant. It doesn't matter where you are, heaven or hell, you're already liberated. So he went to Lord Chaitanya and said, I've changed this verse, mukti so and so and so, and to bhakti da 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 da. And Lord Chaitanya says, you're changing the words of... First he says, I've changed this verse. I want Vyasadeva. He says, what? You don't change the words of Vyasadeva. He says, I want to listen to it. And he tells him, he says, it is very beautiful, but don't change the words. And I thought that was a very interesting way of Radhanath chiming in on the changing the Prabhupada's editorial changes. Although I don't really know all the ins and outs of it, maybe it has gone too far, but it was interesting that he came up with that particular pastime where Lord Chaitanya told Sarvabhauma, even though this is beautiful and correct, do not change Vyasadeva's words. So anyway, I don't know if I actually talked about the verse. What was the verse? But I talked about Haridas. Well, he's the person Bhagavad. He's a Namacharya. And what was the verse?
Should I read it?
Yeah, you read me the verse.
1:18:18.
Yeah, we'll just read it.
Sri Sutta Goswami said, O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. You did talk about that.
Yeah.
Even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower births.
We talked about that too.
Actually, it was pretty relevant.
So we're cleansing ourselves by hearing about his
Right.
testimony. And I strongly want to reiterate that we emulate this and we know it, but we can't always live it. Especially if there's certain services that you have where you have to because this is what we're talking about, is the Paramahamsa stage, or the first class, where you see everyone else is engaged in devotional service but you. Whereas the preacher has to be on the second class and make some discriminations. And so Prabhupada in management, sometimes you have to make some distinctions about what is the right thing, what is the wrong. Yes.
Well, the proof of that is the bull, Dharma, he, as a bull being attacked by Kali, he refused to point blame. He refused to blame anybody. He said there's so many factors. But however, he is Yamaraj, and his duty is to figure out who did what and punish them for it. So,
Right. Yeah, but again, it's showing us what the way, ultimately, if we get troubled, if you feel like, I'm only speaking from my own personal experience, that sometimes you put in circumstances and everything's set up in such a way that it makes you look like, something, you don't belong. And if you fight against it, it's just, it doesn't, you're not going to win. There's no point. There's another lesson that somehow or other you have to learn for your own purification. You don't become, there is no God, or this institution is not, just, or things like of that nature. Well, the point is that these are examples are there for our own personal understanding that while going through the process of purification, sometimes things happen not because of what you did at that moment, which you may not have done, but because of things that have happened from the past. Just like all of a sudden you find out, oh my goodness, I've gotten an inheritance. Like I saw this thing, and it was the son of a famous songwriter, and his father was being honored, who's now dead, and they were, extolling the greatness of his songwriting. And of course, he's also inherited all the wealth from his father. And at the acceptance speech, he said, "This is really amazing. Everybody's treating me so nicely, and I haven't even done anything." Which is an interesting, like all of this. So there are things that come of that are, like, I don't deserve this, but obviously something in his past, he was connected karmically to get this. So we have to understand that, but at the same time, when things happen that, like if you're driving through a green light and a red pickup truck, dual axle, at 65 miles an hour T-boned you, I didn't do anything. I waited for the light to change, and then I got crushed. But there was obviously some reason for this. Yes.
Maybe I can interrupt. I just want to mention it.
You weren't interrupting.
And this connection. I was listening to a lecture that my guru was giving, and he was saying, so many people ask, why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
My guru very wryly responded. He said, because they're not actually good people.
That's true.
It's their karma. You may see that there's some good person. They may even in this lifetime be so good. But if something bad happens to them, that means that they have some bad karma from their past.
And I often question is, what about why do good things happen to bad people? I mean, there are people that are obviously very bad, and what is the definition of good? Does it mean that they become they get a lot of money, or they get a lot of fame, they achieve their goals? But what is ultimately, really what it comes down to is our goal in the human form of life, after going through everything, all the different species, and going through the combinations of 81 different combinations of the modes of material nature, and getting to mainly sattva guna, and then to get to Suddha Sattva, is to know God. Who is God? What is God? And am I God? And what's my relationship with God? That's the ultimate goal of life, is to understand God. And so we think, yes, go ahead.
Jedi and Mudai were bad people, and they had something great happen to them.
What, in terms of Lord Chaitanya and Lord
Exactly.
Haridas? Yeah, sure. Well,
so
was I. I'm like, say you were. Because I don't know your past.
No,
I know I was. But Prabhupada said
all
of our histories are dark or black.
Yeah, if I can see you and you can see me, we're both the same shape.
I was making a joke when I was about to have my heart surgery, and people were calling me because they found out on Friday, and so the surgery would happen Monday morning, and so I had to be monitored for 2 days. So people would call me up and say, "Well, at least now they know I do have a heart."
They called you and said that to you when you were in the hospital?
What?
They were joking.
I was joking.
Oh.
When they called me, I specifically said it to my ex-wife. And then I said, at least now I know, because sometimes she would, anyway. I said, at least now I know I have a heart. But it's true, like Prabhupada said, it's a piece of black coal. Literally. They didn't see a heart, they saw a chunk of black coal. And then her response was, "Are you high?"
What are they giving you?
I wasn't at the time, but just at that moment I saw this nurse walk in, and I knew she was about to give me a cocktail of some kinds of things to keep me, because they're concerned that you start to get too, upset about the whole thing, and your blood pressure, that monitoring that. And obviously my blood pressure, you see everything on these machines.
Yeah.
So they come in to give me something to relax me. But you don't feel high, you just feel, because the adrenaline of knowing what's about to happen to you is, so that it just kind of stabilizes you, And the whole time, there's this video of this guy telling you the procedure.
What?
Yeah, so
In
you
the
prepare.
room?
But it didn't really dawn on me until I heard someone like 4 or 5 years later on the radio describing it. Even though I'd been watching this video, it didn't really dawn on me what exactly had happened, But anyway, the point is, this material world is an extremely entangling place. It's a prison, and Durga's in charge. She's in charge of 10 directions. East, west, north, south, the corners, and then up and down. There's no way out. There's no way out. We're in here, in a prison. And the only way out is to completely surrender to the lotus feet of the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when you do that, then you should also become a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and try to bring some other people with you. Even if it's just like I always just figure now, at this point in my life, I don't expect to be like some kind of a Diksha guru or something. I don't think about those things. If I can be successful, I'll liberate maybe 7 generations of relatives. That's the way I think about it. And then maybe I can also be like a part of the Darshika guru, like tell somebody about the Hare Krishna mantra. Not necessarily a Shiksha guru. I don't think that I'm qualified for any of those things. At least try to, get the generations that are entangled with me. People I don't even know right now, anyway. I'm going way past the class. But it didn't really matter. There wasn't anybody here, so...
What?
It's only you and me. Oh my gosh,
There was only a few people to begin with, anyway.
Well, thank you, Prabhu, for
I really wasn't going to give the class today. I really didn't want to do it.
Miss an opportunity like this.
No, I really,
That's
you
a
don't
good
understand there's some very serious personal dramas happening. And I was not going to speak today.
Thank you for speaking today.
So,
Thank you for speaking, Prabhu.
no,
Jai.
thanks.